Sophia is pregnant. She is celebrating with her new boyfriend over dinner, and I am fighting with the dog for food in the doghouse, just to fill my stomach. Sophia finished her meal. She immediately came to the doghouse to find me. She rudely threw the ultrasound report in front of me. She said coldly, "Nathan, you hate me. You personally caused the death of our child. Don't you feel anything at all?" I lay on the ground, staring blankly at the words intrauterine early pregnancy and the ultrasound report. My tears flowed down uncontrollably. "Congratulations. You finally became a mother." I sincerely congratulated her, but Sophia did not feel happy at all. She stomped on my wrist hard. Then she walked away without looking back. I watched Sophia's proud silhouette. I forced a bitter smile. Back then, Sophia and I suffered from carbon monoxide poisoning together. I gave the only oxygen mask to Sophia, but her baby was still affected by the medication. I had to personally perform the abortion for her, and I inhaled a large amount of carbon monoxide myself, resulting in severe heart failure complications. After Sophia left, I stared at the ultrasound report on the ground. Tears flowed down uncontrollably. The tears slid down my cheeks, dripping onto the ultrasound report, making the word "serially pregnancy" in the uterus blurry. I remembered the child whose life I ended with my own hands. She was a little girl who had just taken shape. "I'm sorry, Sophia. I'm even more sorry for that child. Now, Sophia is pregnant again. I should feel happy." Slowly, I managed to squeeze out a faint smile. This should be something worth celebrating, but I don't know why. My heart aches in waves. Maybe I'm just too hungry to the point of panic inside. I'm holding my chest. I slowly crawled over to the dog bowl. I started eating the leftover food inside, gulping it down after finishing the dog food. The pain in my chest did not ease. I quickly shoved the dog food into my mouth. My mouth was almost too full to hold it all. Nathan said to me, "Stop eating dog food." I swallowed the food in my mouth. I looked up at the person speaking. He said, "Eat this instead." Sophia's new boyfriend turns out to be Ethan. He became my substitute. Ever since Sophia and I decided to divorce, Sophia found a college student online who looks a lot like me. She plans to have this substitute student replace me in her heart. I have no objections to this. I averted my gaze. I continued eating my meal. Ethan noticed I was ignoring him. His expression immediately turned ugly. One moment he was pale, the next moment red. He snorted. I poured the leftover food into the dog's bowl. Then, he said to me in a sympathetic tone, "Brother Nathan, don't eat that dog food. Try the leftovers from my date with Sophia. This is what I saved just for you." I stared blankly at the food in the dog bowl. There were unfinished lamb chops on the table. Next to them was a pile of fish bones and a few gnawed bones. This meal was the best I've seen in the past 3 months. Unknowingly, my mouth started to water. I forced a smile and tugged at the corner of my mouth. "Brother Nathan, don't be polite. You go ahead and eat." I ignored Ethan and didn't care what his intentions were in giving me a bowl of leftovers. All I knew was that this meal was very generous. I decided to finish it. I just opened my mouth, preparing to eat the food in the dog bowl. Just then, Sophia suddenly appeared. She kicked over the dog bowl. Delicacies scattered all over the ground. Sophia stood high above, looking down at me, a pitiful person. "Ethan, why did you give our leftovers to him? He doesn't deserve it." I listened in silence, just continued crawling towards the food on the ground. Sophia was very angry. She wanted to lash out at me, but Ethan stopped her. Ethan said, "Sophia, Nathan usually doesn't eat well. Let him enjoy some of our child's blessings this time." After hearing this, Sophia's anger not only didn't subside, but grew even larger. She said, "Nathan, you're just a useless man at heart. To fill your stomach, you can set aside your pride. No wonder you would do something to harm a child." I didn't care about Sophia's accusations at all, just focused on the food on the ground. My actions made Sophia very angry. She lost control of her emotions. She kicked my back with her foot. Then, she spat a few times at the food that was already on the ground. "Nathan, don't you want to eat? Then I'll make you eat to your heart's content." I slowly moved to the mat. My movements were a bit hesitant. I stared blankly at the lump of rice. There was some internal struggle. In the end, I still lowered my head and ate the food off the ground. Sophia saw this situation. A hint of surprise flashed in her eyes. She quickly frowned and gave a self-deprecating smile. Sophia, don't be sad. Be careful with the baby in your belly. After hearing Ethan's comfort, I suddenly felt that the food on the ground wasn't so appealing anymore. I carefully lifted my head and glanced at Sophia and Ethan. They look like a happy family of 3 because the baby is about to be born, so they are especially happy. If my child with Sophia were still here, maybe we would be as happy as Ethan. I came back to my senses. I finished the last bite of rice in the bowl completely. Then, he looked earnestly at Sophia and sincerely said, "Thank you. This is the best meal I've ever had." Sophia's emotions, which had just calmed down, were ignited by my words. She angrily raised her foot and kicked me hard in the chest. Then, she kicked my bowl of food to pieces. "Don't you like to pick up things from the ground to eat? Then don't use your dog bowl anymore." Suddenly, my face turned pale and my breathing became rapid. I covered my chest with my hand, with my brows tightly furrowed, breathing heavily. The aftermath of heart failure is back again. Sophia saw my condition. The anger on her face instantly turned into guilt. She stood there in shock, her eyes wide open, staring blankly at me. Her hands trembled slightly. Her lips moved, trying to say something, but not a word came out. "Brother Nathan, stop pretending. Don't you know Sister Sophia is pregnant? You might scare her like this." "Brother Nathan, Sister Sophia is a girl. How much strength can you have to kick you?" Ethan wrapped his arms around Sophia's waist. His gaze towards me was filled with mockery and disgust. These words reminded Sophia just in time. Sophia was blaming herself. Suddenly pulled back to reality, she looked at Nathan and said, "You pretended to be sick just to have a meal. You're actually pretending to be sick. You really disappoint me, but that's also normal. You hate me, even personally performing an abortion for me. This already shows what kind of person you are." I lowered my head with a bitter smile. My heart is full of helplessness. This moment, the physical pain is nothing compared to the emotional suffering. In Sophia's eyes, I am an immoral person. She thinks I not only hate her, but also hate our child. She feels I am a despicable person. This is fine too. When I die, Sophia won't be sad either. I closed my eyes, smiling while leaning against the doghouse. Sophia let out a cold laugh. "Nathan, the wisest decision of my life was to divorce you. There are still half a month left in the divorce cooling-off period. During this time, you'd better behave yourself." Sophia looked at me deeply. The anger on her face eased a little. Then, she grabbed Ethan's arm. We left that place together. I slowly opened a slit in my eyes, watching them walk away until they were out of sight. At that moment, I couldn't hold on any longer. I fainted when I woke up again. I was already in the hospital. My attending physician is also my good friend John. He looked at me helplessly. He said, "Nathan, you finally woke up. You were lucky this time. Your housekeeper found you and got you to the hospital in time." I nodded at John and said softly, "John, thank you. You saved me once again." John scoffed coldly and sighed. "I saved you this time, but I might not be able to next time. Your heart failure is too severe. It's twice as fast as a normal person's. If you don't get an artificial heart, you can only live for 3 months at most." I heard that. I was stunned for a moment. There's not much time left. I quickly put on a relaxed smile. 3 months is enough. John shook his head with a hint of helplessness. "Nathan, you're the best gynecologist in our hospital. You ruined your own health for Sophia. Your body has taken a toll. You have heart problems. When you got divorced, you chose to leave without anything." I shook my head, interrupting John. I said to him, "John, I have no regrets, and I don't have the money for an artificial heart." John gritted his teeth in anger. He left the ward in a huff. Not long after he left, Sophia and Ethan rushed in. Sophia saw me lying in bed. Without saying a word, she raised her hand and slapped me. I touched my cheek. I felt a wave of pain. I looked at Sophia. I felt a bit confused inside. Ethan quickly held back the emotional Sophia. He said some uncomfortable words in a gentle tone. "Sophia, please don't be angry anymore. You are still carrying a child. Nathan's hospitalization wasn't intentional. Don't let this make you sick. Ethan held Sophia tightly. His eyes were filled with disdain and hostility towards me. Ethan's words made Sophia think of our child, the child who lost their life because of me. In an instant, Sophia's anger surged again. She rushed to my bedside and pulled me down. Nathan, you are really ruthless. You actually pretended to be sick to scare me. You want me to lose another child. You should go home now. Sophia pulled me out of the hospital room. Her movements were too forceful. My heart started to ache again. I couldn't help but ask her, Sophia, what are you trying to do? Has Nathan been hospitalized? John, the doctor, passed by my ward. He saw me being pulled out. He got angry immediately. He rushed over and pulled me away from Sophia. He said, Nathan is in heart failure. If you're not going to help, that's one thing. But don't make things worse here. Sophia's expression suddenly turned serious. She looked at me. Her eyes were filled with surprise. There was also a hint of concern in her eyes. Soon, that hint of compassion was replaced by mockery. Nathan, you and John are just acting here. Is it interesting? What's wrong? Are you trying to separate the marital assets? Let me be clear with you. That's not going to happen. This is what you owe me. I nodded vigorously, endure the pain, force out a faint smile. Sophia, I'll go home with you. John looked at me angrily. He held my hand tightly. Nathan, your body, you. I shook my head. I forced a smile. He said calmly, I'm fine. It's nothing. Don't worry. I took the initiative to follow Sophia. We left the hospital. We returned home. No, that home used to be mine. Now, it belongs to Sophia and Ethan. I still live in that shabby place, living with the dog. The first night back there, the sky began to sprinkle light snowflakes. These snowflakes made my body feel even colder. I was only wearing a thin hospital gown. I curled up in the doghouse, hugging the dog for warmth. Despite that, I still froze, my face turning pale, my lips turned blue. I looked over from the doghouse. I could clearly see Sophia and Ethan setting off fireworks. Sophia was laughing joyfully. They lit the fireworks on the ground together, watching them soar into the sky. Brilliant fireworks burst in the night sky, illuminating my humble dwelling. I gazed at the dazzling light. A wry smile appeared on my face. This time last year, it was still me watching the fireworks with Sophia. Back then, Sophia's smile was especially radiant. A cold wind blew. I couldn't help but shiver. My eyes involuntarily closed, yet my lips wore a smile. Dying like this seems not so bad. After all, I don't have many days left. Leaving this world early isn't such a big deal. The cold made me think about dying. Ethan, what should we name our child? Sophia's words interrupted my thoughts. I recalled the daughter whose life I had ended with my own hands. I cannot die here. I must return to my daughter's grave, to atone for her. Thinking of this, my heart suddenly filled with strength. I pounded the ground with all my might. I wanted Sophia to hear my voice. Sophia was having fun playing with Ethan. She walked over, a bit impatient after hearing the noise. Nathan, have you had enough of this? What do you want to do? I opened my mouth to speak, but the cold left my mind blank. My lips were trembling uncontrollably. After a long while, I still couldn't say a word. Ethan saw my miserable state. He couldn't help but laugh for a moment, but he quickly hid his smile. She pretended to be a bit angry and shouted at me. Nathan, did you know that Sophia is pregnant? Wasn't your previous disturbance at the hospital enough? Now you're here bothering sister Sophia again. I kept my head down. My lips were trembling. I kept muttering, I want a blanket. I can't die yet. I need to atone for my daughter. Sophia's gaze instantly turned cold. She stretched her right foot out in front of me. She said to me with a sarcastic tone, you want a blanket? Then clean the mud off my shoes. I'll give it to you. I looked at the shoes in front of me. My heart felt a wave of sadness. The old me was particularly clean. If my shoes got a little mud on them, I wouldn't want to wear them. If my clothes had a few wrinkles, I would take them off and iron them. Now, after Sophia and I decided to divorce, that kind of obsession with cleanliness has long vanished. The place is a complete mess. The food is also casual. Even the leftover food on the ground is not despised. Now I have to please Sophia again. My original resolve was easily broken. I shook my head. I tried hard to wake myself up. Then I crawled over to Sophia's shoes. I said, "I'll help you clean it up. Please give me a blanket." Sophia was taken aback. The anger in her eyes slowly rose. She said coldly, "Fine, Nathan, since you don't care about face, then I'll do as you wish." I paused. A pale face forced a flattering smile. Then I licked Sophia's shoes again and again with my red tongue, from the upper part to the sole. I licked the dirt off bit by bit. Ethan stood by, watching me like a clown. His mocking expression was completely unmasked. I don't care about his sarcasm at all. All I could think about was how to make amends. "Nathan, you are truly hopeless." Sophia angrily pulled her foot back. She said, "Go get that blanket." Ethan heard the command, "Bring the blanket." He pretended to help me cover up. Then, when no one was paying attention, he secretly kicked me. I looked up and glared at Ethan with a stern look. I shouted hoarsely, "Get away." Ethan flinched in fear. He said coldly, "Nathan, people like you really don't deserve sympathy. Sophia's decision to divorce you was wise." I pulled the blanket and shrank into the doghouse. I completely ignored Ethan. Ethan felt a wave of displeasure and was a bit angry. I glanced at his lips. It was obvious he said 2 words. "Wait." I let out a cold laugh. I closed my eyes under the covers, unknowingly. I actually fell asleep. I dreamed of walking into the wedding venue with Sophia, starting our life together. Until Sophia got pregnant, we took maternity photos together. Every day, we also did early education for the baby in her belly together. This happy time came to a sudden end when Sophia and I were cooking at a farmhouse. We accidentally had a gas leak, leading to carbon monoxide poisoning. In a critical moment, I gave my oxygen mask to Sophia. Despite my efforts to stop her, she still got poisoned. The baby ultimately could not be saved. After that, Sophia lost control of her emotions. She kept blaming me. She said I was as heartless as a fierce wolf. Sophia divorced me, but she didn't know. I gave her my oxygen mask and insisted she undergo an abortion, poisoned too deeply, leading to severe heart failure. She won't last a few years. Sophia's appearance interrupted my beautiful dream. She dragged me out of the doghouse, hastily pulling me to the hospital. I was already in poor health. The bumpy ride made my heart hurt badly. I was gasping for breath. I still hadn't figured out what was happening when Sophia yanked me into the operating room. She hurriedly told the doctor, "Draw his blood. He has a rare blood type. You must save Ethan." I looked up at Sophia and directly refused. "I'm not well. I can't give blood." My refusal clearly had no effect in the end. I still had 400 cc of blood drawn with blood loss and a weak heart. I felt a chill all over my body. It feels like I'm about to enter heaven after the blood draw. Sophia walked up to me. She stared at my face with a complicated expression and said, "Nathan, if you're fine, get up. Don't pretend here." I struggled to prop myself up. I sat up from the bed. I looked at Sophia weakly. I smiled faintly. "I'm not dead yet. I'm ready to leave." What a pity. I had just taken a few steps when I fell to the ground. John saved me once again. He said to me, "Nathan, your heart has never been good, and now you're going to donate blood. You know, your heart can only last another 2 weeks. You need to get an artificial heart soon." Hearing those words, I just smiled faintly. I asked John for a bag of glucose, and then I left the hospital. Since I only have 2 weeks left to live, the divorce cooling-off period between Sophia and me is meaningless now. It's a pity. Sophia has taken on the reputation of a widow after leaving. To be able to see my daughter often, I found a job as a cemetery guard. I live in the cemetery every day, staying by my daughter's side. After I left, Sophia was extremely anxious. She searched everywhere for me in the hospital. She would grab someone and ask where I had gone. As time went by, the hospital staff began to think Sophia had mental issues. After that, they stopped paying attention to her. When Sophia noticed the staff ignoring her, she went directly to find John to question him about my whereabouts. John coldly said, "Sophia, how can you still ask about Nathan's whereabouts? It's all because of you. Nathan has only half a month left to live now. When you both suffered carbon monoxide poisoning, he gave you the oxygen mask. You needed to have an abortion after the poisoning. He disregards his own health. He personally performs the surgery for you. It's all to help you recover as soon as possible. Sophia furrows her brow. She looks very surprised. After a while, her face shows an angry expression. John, did Nathan make you use such clumsy words to deceive me? He really is an unpleasant person. It's truly annoying. John clenches his fists, struggling to suppress his inner anger. He shouts at Sophia, "If you don't believe me, you can go to the emergency room and ask yourself. Nathan gave up his life for a woman like you. It really isn't worth it." After saying that, John shakes his head and walks out of the office. Only Sophia remains leaning against the door. She shakes her head in confusion. This is impossible. Nathan clearly hates me. That's why he made me have an abortion, even though I have carbon monoxide poisoning. But the situation is not serious. The baby in your womb should be fine. This is absolutely impossible. Impossible. After a while, Sophia slowly stood up. Leaning against the white wall, she staggered towards the emergency room, thinking that she might find answers there. Emtikes Sophia, your carbon monoxide poisoning is not serious. However, the drug's effects could increase the risk of fetal deformities by up to 95%. Dr. Nathan considered your health situation during the poisoning and promptly performed an abortion for you. He is truly a caring husband. After hearing the emergency doctor's words, Sophia's mind went blank. Then the doctor said something else that made her unable to hold back her tears. Emtikes Sophia, you had a miscarriage this time. Your body has been affected. It may be very difficult for you to get pregnant again in the next year or two. It may be very difficult to get pregnant in the next year or two. Don't be sad. You and Dr. Nathan still have a long future ahead. Sophia cried uncontrollably. She couldn't even remember how she left the hospital. After crying, she calmed down. She went to another hospital for an ultrasound. The test results came out. She was not pregnant. Sophia began to suspect Ethan. She didn't directly alert him. Instead, she quietly hired a private detective to investigate Ethan. After the investigation, she found out that Ethan actually lived off women. Sophia discovered the pregnancy ultrasound was actually forged by Ethan and the doctor. Even her injury and blood transfusion were also a carefully staged act by the doctors. She felt completely fooled. It felt like a joke. Sophia thought her actions were quite discreet, but Ethan still found out. He realized he could never marry Sophia, and he couldn't count on her help anymore. He set his sights on me, her ex-husband. He wanted to use me for his own gain. Ethan collected a lot of past events between Sophia and me and posted it all online. He planned to attract attention with this, to become an internet celebrity. After this matter spread, everyone knew that there was a ruthless gynecologist at the first hospital. He acted out of hatred for his wife and poisoned the child in his wife's womb. Ethan's exposure also increased in just a few days. He attracted over 100,000 followers, but he is very greedy inside. Otherwise, he wouldn't be willing to pretend to be me, to marry Sophia. He wants an easy life. Ethan filmed my daily life in a shabby environment. In the video, I emitted an unpleasant smell. My clothes were dirty and shiny, all over my body. Only my face could still show that I was that tidy Dr. Nathan. I lived in a dilapidated place, like a beggar, fighting with dogs for food to fill my stomach. I even disregarded my dignity to pick up what others have spat out to eat. Before, I've already left a bad impression on everyone. Once these videos came out, netizens found it particularly entertaining. Many bloggers emerged online trying to capitalize on my popularity. Their titles are more exaggerated than the last, especially eye-catching. A well-known gynecologist, dissatisfied with his wife, cruelly caused the death of the fetus in her womb. Now, he has received the punishment he deserves. This doctor now lives in poor conditions, staying in a shabby place, eating low-quality food. All of this is the result of his own actions. Ethan is one step closer to his dream of becoming an internet celebrity. I'm in the security room of the cemetery, staring at the video on my phone. He just smiled faintly. Anyway, I'm about to be done for. It's time to go accompany my daughter. This little fame is no longer important to me, but this may affect the hospital's reputation. I wrote an apology letter. Let John help deliver it to the dean, however. After John read the letter, he didn't immediately give it to the dean. He angrily recorded a video to testify for me. Nathan is not a bad person. He had no choice but to give up his child. John stood up to speak for me. Many doctors in the hospital also began to clarify for me. He said, Dr. Nathan and his wife suffered from carbon monoxide poisoning. I performed the surgery. I can prove that Dr. Nathan is definitely not the kind of person described online. I work in the same office as Dr. Nathan. He loves his wife very much. It's impossible for him to do such a thing. Nathan did indeed suffer from serious aftereffects. Prejudice in people's hearts is like a mountain. No matter how much effort you put in, it's hard to change it. The image of my vicious husband has already been established by everyone. It's been widely circulated online. Even if the doctors speak for me, the online community still thinks I'm not a good person. As a result, everyone criticized him. However, Ethan used these criticisms to attract a large group of fans, enough to start his live streaming. He successfully launched the live stream and started his money-making plan. I watched Ethan talking about my situation in the live stream, but I felt very calm inside. Not long after Ethan's live stream started, Sophia arrived. She walked in with 2 police officers. I looked at Sophia in the live stream. My heart was full of confusion. What happened next was completely beyond my imagination. Sophia actually called 2 police officers and had Ethan arrested. She frowned tightly, with anger in her eyes, angrily said to Ethan, Ethan, who gave you the right to frame Nathan? Nathan is my husband. He is my lifelong partner. You have no right to comment on him. By the way, you might as well spend the rest of your days in prison. The things you've done, I'm fully aware of them. I'm a bit confused. I really don't understand why Sophia is doing this. She doesn't hate me. Does she even wish I would disappear? How could she now publicly support me online? All my energy has been spent pondering Sophia's attitude. I want to draw a conclusion from this. Nathan, please come back. I love you. Sophia's voice interrupted my thoughts. I opened my eyes wide, staring intently at her in the live stream. I can't figure out what she's doing. After a while, a cold smile appeared on my face. Sophia is doing this, probably worried that because of me, she would become the center of public attention. She can't stand others prying into her private life. I turned off the live stream on my phone, dragging my weary body to patrol the cemetery. The phone keeps ringing, one after another. I ignored that sound, let it keep ringing. I walked past one graveyard after another, looking at each gravestone. The pain in my heart turned into a faint smile. Half a month later, I will also lie here. I will always be with the daughter whose life I ended myself. I don't know if anyone will come to visit my grave after I die. I don't care about that. I coughed a few times. I wrapped my clothes tightly. I bent over and walked towards my daughter's grave. Only one name is engraved on my daughter's gravestone. Sophia Zhu. Sophia believed I was unworthy of being a father, so she didn't let my daughter take my surname. That's fine too. When others come to visit the grave in the future, they won't know about me, a person with a stain. I sat beside my daughter's grave. I closed my eyes. A gentle breeze passed by. The fragrance of the earth wafted over. I take a deep breath. I whisper softly, I can smell this scent. It's really nice. What a pity in another half a month I won't be able to smell it anymore. I suddenly realize I'm crying. I wipe my tears casually, but the tears keep flowing down. Nathan, so you really are here. Sophia is squatting on the ground, looking at me sadly. She reaches out her hand, trying to help wipe away my tears. For some reason, that hand suddenly stops in midair. Nathan, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Woo woo woo. I slowly open my eyes. I see Sophia blurry. Her white down jacket is covered in dirt. Her hair at the temples is soaked with sweat, sticking closely to her face. Her eyes were red and swollen like 2 big walnuts. She tried hard to hold back her tears. She said in a hoarse voice, Nathan, turns out you did so much for me. Why have you never told me? Why didn't I tell you in the end? Sophia's voice became hoarse and agitated. Then, she suddenly lunged at me and hugged me tightly. I was momentarily stunned. My hands froze in midair. I didn't know whether to put them down or keep them raised. I felt the warmth of Sophia. A faint smile forced its way onto my lips. Eventually, Sophia noticed it. "Nathan, you said you would always be there for me." I slowly lowered my hands that were suspended in the air. "Now, I only have half a month to live. To say I would accompany you for a lifetime, that's just a joke. Sophia, there is no possibility between us anymore." I pushed Sophia away with all my strength, staggering away from my daughter's grave. Sophia was chasing closely behind. She cried and begged for my forgiveness. "Say it, Nathan, don't go. Forgive me, please," I said with tears in my eyes. "I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong." Then I closed the door. Sophia knocked hard on the door from outside, but I ignored her. In the days that followed, I patrolled the cemetery as usual. The difference was, Sophia has been following me all the time. She keeps begging me for forgiveness. She also interrupts my work. I really can't take it anymore. I coldly advised her to leave. "Sophia, there is no possibility between us anymore. The moment you threw me into the doghouse, the moment you forced me to eat dog food, we can never go back to how things were. I'm doing pretty well now. Please don't come to disturb me, Sophia. You haven't forgotten what you've done yourself, right?" Sophia listened to what I said. It was like being struck by lightning. She stood frozen in place. I lowered my head and sighed. I quickly walked out of the cemetery. I returned to the cabin. I thought Sophia had already given up, but unexpectedly, she was live streaming an apology in front of my cabin. Every afternoon, she waited for me to finish my patrol. Then she knelt at my door. The title of the live stream was "Seeking Husband's Forgiveness." She said nothing, just stared intently at my door. Sophia's live stream became increasingly popular. Netizens noticed her previous behavior. Someone commented, "I thought she was just pretending to be a good person, only to sell products during the live stream." In the end, she sincerely asked for her husband's forgiveness. That woman is beautiful on the outside, but her actions seem unwise and somewhat excessive, making her husband live in a doghouse. Is this something that happened 25 years ago? Kneeling is considered mild. One should atone with their life. Some netizens even found the exact location of the grave. They specifically drove to the cemetery to check in, just to see the famous internet celebrity Sophia. Many people even brought vegetable leaves to throw at Sophia. Everyone treated Sophia like a public spectacle from ancient times. Someone shouted, "People like you are truly outrageous. You're really ungrateful, shameless. I don't understand why your husband saved someone like you. Why didn't you just die from poisoning back then?" The noise from that group of people is preventing me from resting properly. My health is getting worse and worse. At first, it was just a few seconds of difficulty breathing. Now it's extended to a minute. At night, I often have to wake up because I can't catch my breath. I have to wake up. I need to take naps during the day. It's really noisy outside. I can't sleep at all. I really can't take it anymore, so I opened the door. I once again urged Sophia to leave with a hoarse voice. "You should go. I will never forgive you in this lifetime if you don't leave now. I won't be polite anymore." My threats had no effect on Sophia at all. "Nathan, I'm sorry, me. I really don't want to hear him talk about this anymore. Right now, I just want to rest well, to spend the remaining time quietly." I walked into the room with a frown. I brought out a basin of water for washing my face. I splashed it directly on Sophia. "Miss Sophia, are you awake now? I told you before, it's impossible between us." Sophia looked at me. Her face was filled with sadness. Tears shimmered in her eyes. I ignored her tears. I turned and went back inside. Inside the house, I heard Sophia crying very sadly outside. She cried for a while. Finally, it's over. My world is finally quiet. In the following days, Sophia hasn't shown up. However, I found John's video online. In the video, John angrily accused Sophia of being heartless. He said I only have half a month to live, and yet he still won't let me be at peace. After watching the video, I felt particularly sorry for my friend John. I thought about it. In the end, I took out my phone and called John. Beep, beep, beep. The call went through, but it was Sophia who answered the phone. "Nathan, in this lifetime I don't expect you to forgive me. I just hope in the next life we can meet again. At that time, I will definitely cherish you well." After hearing these words, I was momentarily at a loss for words. I had just opened my mouth, preparing to respond to Sophia, but she had already hung up the phone. I gently shook my head. I stopped thinking about it. Let's say it's because Sophia didn't get my forgiveness. Emotions got out of control. The next morning, I had just finished my morning patrol. John suddenly appeared at my cabin door. Without saying a word, he took me directly to the hospital. He said, "Nathan, you are lucky. The hospital has free treatment slots. I applied for you, you were selected." Upon hearing this news, I felt truly fortunate. I was wheeled into the operating room with excitement. After the surgery was completed, the effects of the anesthesia gradually wore off. I opened my eyes. The first thing I saw was John holding a bouquet of roses. He placed the flowers on my bedside. Then he said some heavy words to me. "Nathan, I need to tell you the truth. Your surgery fees were actually covered by Sophia. She sold her house and car to raise money. She even became a test subject because the side effects of the trial drugs were too severe. She passed away yesterday. She passed away yesterday." I heard those words. The artificial heart in my chest suddenly thumped.